Reporting from Washington, Ed Koppel.
Good evening. If you've been anywhere near a television set or a radio these past few hours, you already know that John Lennon of the Beatles is dead. He was shot late this evening in front of his apartment building in New York City. Apparently, he was killed almost immediately. The man who shot John Lennon walked up to the musician as he was leaving his limousine. According to eyewitnesses, he said, "Mr. Lennon," and then fired at him point blank at least 5 times.
Good evening. The death of a man who sang and played the guitar overshadows the news from Poland, Iran, and Washington tonight. Former Beatle John Lennon, who was 40, was shot and killed last night outside his luxury apartment in New York. The alleged killer is an unemployed security guard and printer who had lived in Hawaii. News of Lennon's death touched off a wave of shock and mourning around the world. Steve Young reports.
The shooting happened at the Dakota apartment building minutes after John Lennon and his wife Yoko Ono left a recording session. When they got out of their limousine, a waiting gunman said, "Mr. Lennon," crouched in military stance, and squeezed off at least 4 shots from a .38 caliber pistol.
Within 2 minutes of the time I got there, they brought out Lennon. He was limp. He had blood coming outside of his mouth. He had his glasses on, and there were maybe 5 or 6 police officers holding him, carrying him, putting him in the back seat of a car. Very quickly, Yoko was with him.
Lennon was rushed to the nearest hospital just a few blocks away, but was dead on arrival. His body was taken to the morgue.
This is John Lawrence in London. Another of John Lennon's former partners, Paul McCartney, spent the day at an Oxford Street studio saying, "Work is the best tonic." Police were standing by, along with reporters, as McCartney finished. What was your reaction to the death of John Lennon?
I was very shocked, you know. It's terrible news.
What were you recording today?
I was just listening to some stuff, you know. I just didn't want to sit at home.
Why?
Look, I didn't feel like it.
What time did you hear the news?
This morning sometime.
Very early?
Yeah. It's gone now, yeah? A drag, isn't it? Okay, cheers. Bye.
The survivor of the most successful songwriting team in history also said, John will be remembered for his unique contribution to art, music, and world peace.
And there's word tonight that former Beatle Paul McCartney has hired 2 bodyguards to patrol his family's home in England. They were on the job within 24 hours after Lennon's death.
Another former Beatle, George Harrison, was said to be in a state of shock at his secluded mansion in the English countryside.
Ringo Starr, who had been on vacation in the Bahamas, flew to New York and visited briefly with Yoko. He made no public statement. It wasn't a day for dealing with the public.
George Martin, who produced many of the Beatles' records, said he was stunned beyond belief.
Part of him was me. You know, I'm a musician myself. I wouldn't be playing now if it wasn't for Beatles.
What about the feelings you got when to come out here and buy the records?
Well, it's sort of a shame that somebody has to die before people, you know, realize what's happening and go out and buy their, you know, memorabilia and stuff. That's the only thing I regret.
Yeah. How will the memory of John Lennon now, will it take on more importance, do you think, with the fans?
I imagine, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Around the world, radio stations played Lennon's songs. Some played nothing but. People sent flowers, came with messages expressing their own feelings. Others wanted to go buy Beatles records. One New York store sold over 500 this morning.
Because I was in the 60s, so I remember him very, very well. Very, very shocked by it.